Students, so today we will be starting from the chapter biological molecules. In my later videos, I have covered the three topics: cells, specialized cells, and the topic of enzymes. I have done all the past paper practice of these questions, past paper practice, as well as I have done MCQs practice as well as theory. Of these two chapters, I only have done the MCQs practice of the topic of enzyme. If you haven't watched that video, go back and watch it. So first, let's begin. Now we are starting with our new chapter according to the examination syllabus. The examiner wants us to know the full detail of carbohydrates. Many teachers I have saw that they only teach the carbohydrates from the surface level, and the students in the CIs in MCQs paper or in theory paper fails to do the right answer. Why is that so? Because examiner wants us to know the types of carbohydrates, whereas we are taught only about carbohydrates. There are three types: monosaccharides, polysaccharides, and disaccharides. Alright, these are three kinds of carbohydrates. There are full descriptions for each of these. So this video will be much more longer than the previous ones. I promise that there won't be a single question that about carbohydrates about which I haven't taught. So first we are just going to the basics of what you say carbohydrates, because we should know the, or at least the basics. So carbohydrates, if we say sugar, we mean carbohydrates. If there is on a back of a chips, there are written the ingredients. If they have written carbohydrates, it simply means sugars. If on a beverage, it's written carbohydrates, it simply means a sugar. So what is it a sugar made of? What is carbohydrate made of? Same thing, C6H12O6. Examiner don't ask this thing, but it asks the same thing in various ways. So what are those ways? Examiner could ask you, what is the ratio of hydrogen as well as oxygen? First, how to calculate ratio? We write C6, H12 and O6. 6 on the 6, 6 on the 6. Alright, first leave it. It would be difficult for you. Alright, divided by 2. 2 3s are 6, 2 6s are 12, and 2 3s are 6. 3 1s are 3, 3 2s are 6, and 3 1s are 3. So, if it asks about the ratio of hydrogen and oxygen, the ratio will be ratio 2 by 1. This would be the ratio of hydrogen and oxygen in carbohydrates or in any other sugar like glucose, fructose, maltose, sucrose and lactose, all other things. If we jump on the other thing that we should know about carbohydrates, it's about the polymers and the monomers. Examiner can ask you in paper 1 about the polymers and the monomers of every single biological molecules. Protein, it is DNA, it is carbohydrates, it is lipids, whatsoever. Examiner can ask you about the polymers and the monomers. So what I mean by the polymers? If you focus on this word, poly means many. If you don't know, don't worry, I will teach you. Poly means many. Polymer means it is a single sugar molecule is made of hundreds of small sugar molecules. This is a polymer, whereas this is a monomer. It is made of single molecule of carbon of sugar. So if we say sugar, carbohydrates is a polymer. Carbohydrates is made of small molecules of sugar. For example, C5 is also there, that is known as pentose and trioses and many other molecules. So when this is a carbohydrate molecule, it is made of many small molecules, and each small molecule is known as monomers. So what is the polymer of carbohydrates? It is itself carbohydrate. What is the monomer? Monosaccharides. You haven't heard this name before. If you had, I'm really grateful your teacher has taught you this. But monosaccharides means small sugar molecules made of one sugar molecule, two sugar molecule, three sugar molecules. I will tell you there, like, how many carbon atoms is criticized or examined as a monosaccharide. This is all the basics of carbohydrates. What is the formula for carbohydrates? C6H12O6. What is the ratio of hydrogen and oxygen? 2:1. What is the polymer in carbohydrate? Carbohydrate itself is polymer. And what is the monomer? Monosaccharides. Monosaccharides are small carbon atoms or sugar molecules. Polymers are carbohydrates, means it is made of many monosaccharides. This all is done. We now talk about the three types of carbohydrates. So what are the three types of carbohydrates? Let me write monosaccharide. 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 So monosaccharide, I told you, is a monomer. It is a monomer of carbohydrates. Means carbohydrates is made of monosaccharides, small carbon atoms, hydrates. Alright. Now if you move on, I told you that I would be telling you in this video from how many carbon atoms to how many carbon atoms it is considered as a monosaccharide. If a sugar molecule, this is a sugar molecule, and if it has 3 carbons to 7 carbon molecules, it is considered as a monosaccharide. I have a sugar molecule. It is made of 3 carbon atoms. 3 carbon atoms or 4 carbon atoms. I will say it's a monosaccharide. If I have another sugar molecule, it is made of 5 carbon atoms. I will consider it as a monosaccharide. If I have another molecule, it is made of 7 carbon molecules, I will consider it as a monosaccharide. But if this has 8 molecules, it won't be considered as a monosaccharide. Instead, it would be considered as a disaccharide. I will teach you what is disaccharide. So I hope you understand this. So what is the limit or what is the minimum carbons in monosaccharides? 3 carbons to 7 carbons atoms each monosaccharide has. Alright, now we need to know the names of the sugar molecules that has 3 carbon atoms. We should know the name of the molecule that has 4 carbon atoms. We should know the name of the carbon molecule which has 5 carbons. We should know the name of the sugar molecule which has 6 carbon atoms, 7 carbon atoms. So we should know their names. Why we should know their names? If examiner asks you, for example, triosis. If the examiner asks you triosis is monosaccharide or disaccharide, how would you know? So I will be telling you their names. So when you know their names, you can see that it is a monosaccharide. So now let's remember their name: triosis, tetrosis, pentosis, titrosis, tetrosis, pentosis, hexosis, and the 7th one is heptosis. I know you will be thinking this is much more out of the syllabus. This is not. Examiner wants us to know the monosaccharides. If we are studying monosaccharides, it means we should know the names of the monosaccharide sugar molecules. What is meant by triosis? 3, tetrosis 4, pentosis 5, hexosis 6, and heptosis 7. If you remove S, the spelling is the same. Heptos, hexos, So I am adding S, so it can be as a rhythm and you can memorize this. Trioses, tetroses, pentoses, hexoses, and heptoses. These all 5 sugar molecules are considered as monosaccharides, means they all are monomers because they are made of single carbon at 3 carbon atoms or more than 3 carbon atoms, but it's limited to 7. Now we talk about their properties. There are 2 properties in our syllabus. One is the ATP. These both properties are related to ATP, alternative to practical. Alright, what are those properties? It is soluble in water. Monosaccharides is soluble in water. Many of you will be asking why it's soluble in water. It's related to chemistry, polar substances. It is known as, you can ask your chemistry teacher, and I'm just a biology teacher, so I won't be going deep into this thing. You just need to memorize it is soluble in water, nothing else. Now it is a reducing sugar. What is it? It is a reducing sugar. Why I am saying it's a reducing sugar? Reducing sugar means that when I add these molecules into Benedict solution, they show a reaction. They show a chemical reaction. When I add trioses in Benedict solution, it shows a reaction. When I add tetroses in Benedict solution, it shows a reaction. So what this reaction shows? When I add these tetroses, the solution, the watery solution turns blue. Then it turns green. So what? It can turn blue, it can turn green, it can turn yellow, it can turn orange, it can turn brick red. So these 5 are the possibilities of their color change. Tetroses, which has 4 carbon atoms, can convert into blue, it can convert into green, it can convert into yellow, it can convert into orange, it can convert into brick red. So these are the 5 possibilities for the color change in the Benedict solution. Just recap, monosaccharides are the monomers of carbohydrates, carbohydrates are the polymers. So monosaccharides made up carbohydrate. 3 carbon atoms to 7 carbon atoms. If a sugar molecule has 3 carbon atoms, it is considered as a trioses. If a sugar molecule has 4 carbon atoms, it is considered as a monosaccharide or a sugar. Tetroses, pentoses, hexoses, and heptoses. There are 2 properties related to ATP. It is soluble in water. Just need to memorize. No in detail, nothing in detail. You can search. It will give you the properties of polar substances, not in your syllabus. Reducing sugar. This is the ATP question. What it means by reducing sugar? It means that when I add these monosaccharides into Benedict solution, it can show the result, it can show the property, it can show the color change in 5 of these. If it changes to what you say purple, that would be the wrong answer, because to fulfill the characteristics of being a monosaccharide is to be a reducing sugar and show these results: blue, green, yellow, orange, brick red. Blue, green, yellow, orange, brick red. So now let's move on. This was the first type of carbohydrates. Now the second types. Alright. The second type is disaccharide. So what is a disaccharide? Disaccharide is when a when one monosaccharides combine with another monosaccharides, when they form a sugar molecule like tetroses combine with another tetroses sugar molecule, and they combine, so now they become disaccharides. Disaccharides means 2. So when 2 monosaccharide molecules, any monosaccharides molecules, how many monosaccharides molecules there are? 5. Tetroses, trioses, heptoses, hexoses, and pentoses. When any of these two sugar molecules combine together, they form disaccharide. When any of these two monosaccharides, such as hexoses, combine with another hexoses and form another sugar molecule, whatever sugar molecule it is, but it forms another sugar molecule. So this sugar molecule is disaccharide. The sugar molecule that is formed when these two monosaccharide molecules combine together is known as disaccharide. How they are combined, another talk. Just remember the definition of what you say. Disaccharide, they combine to condensation. When I will write myself. When, why isn't it working? When two monosaccharides combine together, how they combine together? Through condensation. Via condensation. It is called disaccharide. So what is the meaning of disaccharides? Disaccharide means when two monosaccharides combine together via condensation, through condensation process, it is known as disaccharide. So now there is another two separate properties of what you say a disaccharide molecules. There are two properties of disaccharides. So what are those properties? There are two properties. The first property is, what is the first property? It is soluble in water. Soluble in water. This was also the property of monosaccharides. Monosaccharides and disaccharides has same properties but different definition. Monosaccharide definition was, it was the monomer of carbohydrates. The definition of disaccharide is when two the monosaccharides molecules combine together, they form disaccharides. So I hope you all understand this. So what I mean, it is soluble in water, means if I add a disaccharide molecule, sucrose, in water, it is soluble. I hope you all understand. It is a reducing sugar. What I tell you the meaning of reducing sugar? By reducing sugar, I means that when I add this sugar, disaccharide sugar, in Benedict solution, it gives me a result of color change. When a disaccharide molecule or any sugar molecules give me a result and a color change to Benedict solution, that means it's a monosaccharide. It's a disaccharide sugar molecule. So what are the two properties? I mean three. When two monosaccharides, any two heptoses, hexoses, pentoses, trioses, tetroses combine through condensation, it is disaccharide. Disaccharide properties are similar to the properties of monosaccharides. Soluble in water, reducing sugar. What I mean by reducing sugar? When I add any disaccharide sugar in Benedict solution, it gives me the result of green, yellow, orange, brick red, and what is another color change? Blue. You all understand this? I hope so. So now what I mean is that there is a sugar molecule known as sucrose. You all have heard this name, sucrose. Sucrose is another disaccharide, but sucrose is not a reducing sugar. It's a full detail. It's like a 10-page explanation why sucrose is not a reducing sugar. Our syllabus don't want us the detail. So just keep in your mind that sucrose is not a reducing sugar. But It is soluble in water and it is a disaccharide, but it is not a reducing sugar. When I say sucrose, you should know that it is not a reducing sugar, and you should know it is soluble in water, and you should know that it is a disaccharide. Indeed, it's a disaccharide, but still it's not a reducing sugar. What I mean by reducing sugar, when I add sucrose in Benedict solution, it don't show a color change. It's named transparent. Now, what do I mean? So, what are the disaccharide sugar molecules? Name it. Lactose, fructose, and what is another sugar molecule? Sucrose, maltose. These all four names you should know. Sucrose, maltose, fructose and lactose are all disaccharide molecules. Now let's go on the third type of sugar molecules. When I say a disaccharide molecule is made when monosaccharide molecules are combined. So by that means polysaccharide is also made when two or more than two disaccharide molecules combine together, or monosaccharides. So I will write monosaccharides when many monosaccharides. In that definition I say only two, but here I say many. When many monosaccharide molecules combine, the rest of the definition will be same. Combine together via condensation. We say it's a polysaccharide. What we say? It's a polysaccharide. What I mean by polysaccharide? By saying polysaccharide, I means it is made of many monosaccharides. So now if I say the properties, these two properties are completely different. Like I say sun comes from the west and goes in the east. Now it's the totally opposite thing. Polysaccharide is totally opposite to disaccharide and monosaccharides. It is not a reducing sugar. When I add a polysaccharide sugar molecules into Benedict solution, it won't show any change. It's not a reducing sugar. It is not soluble in water. What I mean? It is not soluble in water. But soluble, I can say it's insoluble. It is insoluble. Now, what are polysaccharides example? Any one of you push your brain to its most strength and try to remember what are the polysaccharides. Alright. We forget to name starch, glucagon. We forget to name cellulose. Where you heard these names? You heard the name of starch when I studied root hair cell. When I taught you the topic of root hair cells in specialized molecules, I named starch. Root hair cells store starch. Glucagon is stored in liver. I haven't taught this, but you should know. Liver and muscles. If you cut your muscle, it is rich with glucagon because it is the storage unit. Now, cellulose. Cellulose, I have taught you on the topic of cell. Cell wall in plant cell is made of cellulose. So we can say it's a storage unit for cellulose. I hope you all understand this whole topic of carbohydrates. I give you the most detail I could. Examiner wants us to know the exact details that I taught in this video. Just memorize it and make all the notes. I hope you enjoy my video. Thank you for watching.